Hello, everyone, and welcome to Inside Leather History, a Fireside Chat. I'm Doug OKeeffe. I am the producer and the host of these chats, which are a program of the Leather Archives and Museum. And guess what? I get to do a second interview with Tomo today. We did another interview at another event, and it didn't turn out very well. The quality was bad. So I said, okay, that's it. We're going to redo this sucker, and it's going to be a good one. How are you, Tomo?
I am doing well. A little bit tired. We are mid-weekend at South Plains Leatherfest 2025, and Thursday is our biggest setup day. We set up the entire hotel, and then we run into 4 hours of meetings, and then we end up on stage at night. So today's Friday morning. I brought coffee with me, and I will be sipping on it throughout and just trying to get the engine going this morning.
There we go.
Thank you so much for being here.
My absolute pleasure. Thank you for welcoming me to South Plains for this. I'd never been here, and I had this incredible opportunity to redo this interview with you, and I wasn't going to miss it. Mm-hmm. Okay, so tell me a little bit about your thoughts about South Plains this year. Anything going on in your mind on that?
Yeah, there's a lot going on in my mind. We need it more than ever. That's what's going on in my mind. And I said in my opening remarks last night, my producer welcome remarks, we're in a tough time.
Yeah.
It's a tough political climate. People are afraid. Yeah. Our people, our community, we are afraid, we are stressed, we feel like we're being erased. And we need each other more than ever, and we need each other in solidarity. We have to stand together. We've done this before, and now it's time to do it again. So gathering here as a group of 800 people, wow, and not being erased and being unapologetic, I think is exactly what we need. And it's the hardest time for people to show up. It's the hardest time to travel. It's the hardest time for producers to produce. And all of us need to come together and get through this time together. So that is kind of what's on my mind for this year. You know, we have the parties and everything, but there's a political feeling to every event I go to right now, yeah, that we can't ignore because it's our life.
What's been the most profound thing you've seen come from the political parts of this?
Profound in a horrible way. I feel like the government in the United States is trying to erase us. Yeah. And they're starting with transgender people, and they're starting with other marginalized groups, and it's blasphemy that we think anyone could think we're going to erase DEI. It's just an absurdity, and I think our political climate is completely absurd and horrifying right now. Yeah. So profound in a not good way is how it strikes me. Okay. And I think it creates a feeling of powerlessness in many of us. I know that I can't even watch the news. I just can't watch the news. It's overwhelming. But what I can do is what I can do in my power as a producer. That little pebble in my little pond spreads, and doing an event like this, selling out an 18-story property for just us, and making a financial commitment to do that creates a bubble for us this weekend that maybe we don't have anywhere else in our life.
That's true.
So that's the work I can do, but it's overwhelming, I think, for me and many other people, what we can't do.
Yeah. Before we get into the meat of this interview, I just wanted to bring up a positive piece here. Last night was one of the most interesting opening events I've ever seen at an event anywhere in the world.
Oh gosh.
Tell me a little bit about that, because it was absolutely entertaining. Absolutely entertaining.
Well, we open on Thursday night, and that show that you saw, we call it debauchery, that has existed for decades. At South Plains Leatherfest. Because remember, I only became the owner and producer 3 years ago in 2020. Well, 5 years, but They named me 5 years ago, but I took over the production 3 years ago. So this is our third year with this production team. So that is not new. That has existed for years. We changed it a little bit. It used to be on Friday night, now it's on Thursday night. And it starts with your basic opening ceremonies, and then it goes into a show called Debauchery. And Debauchery is a burlesque show, all sorts of performers on the stage, and they're not professionals. They're from our community. And I love that because I want to see people on the stage I know and I recognize, and I just had coffee in the restaurant with yesterday. So we don't do professionals, we do our people and give them an opportunity. And halfway through, we do something called the strut. And the South Plains Strut has existed for decades. Not my idea, it's Master Jim, Slave Marcia, and Sir Cougar's idea. And it is a complete fundraiser for the Travel Fund, the International Master Slave, International Person of Leather Travel Fund. It's a free-for-all.
Let me tell you.
Yeah. Why don't you tell us?
I don't know if you want me telling your story, but yeah.
What was your impression? I'm going to change and ask the question.
Oh, no. Here goes my...
And this is where you lose control of the show. What was your impression of that free-for-all?
Unexpected. I didn't even have any idea that was coming. And suddenly, all the people were having the time of their lives on this stage. The whole crowd was feeding into the energy and responding to this. And I was dumbstruck at how fun it all was and how people responded to that. It was really great.
Wow. Well, what it is, to give a little more context, is it's a room full of, I don't know, I'm sure we didn't have all 800 in the room last night, but maybe we had 400 in the room. I'm not sure. I didn't count. And it is a 400-person lap dance, to put it kindly. And we invite everyone to get up on, anyone can go up on the stage. They drag me on the stage every year. I know, I take one for the team. It's a real hardship. I had the MC goddess Indigo in my lap feeding me Cheetos from her mouth. I mean, it was just a little bit out of control. There's a story to the Cheetos. Anyway, so... people get up, they dance, they do lap dances, bump and grind, and everyone's doing their thing. And then there's the other people that are tipping, and that's the key, because all the tips for all of this madness go to the travel fund, and it is just a complete free-for-all and a lot of fun.
It was unbelievably. It's just amazing. I would love to see that at more events. But anyway, coming back a little bit, I want to look at your history, which is incredible because you have so much there. I almost feel I can't depict it all. Producer, especially here at South Plains, Leather Dyke, former producer of Midwest Leather Kink Alliance.
That's where we were when we did that first interview.
Okay.
I'm a former producer of Northwest Leather Celebration.
Okay.
And a former producer of International Ms. Leather, International Ms. Boot Black.
All right, I've got to make sure I get these things correct.
No problem.
Now,
I'm here to help.
But hey, producer, keynote speaker, we've got to bring that in, MC. So where do you get that drive? Where does that energy germinate?
The coffee. Passion, because it's what I love to do. And producing certainly is a full-time job. I work year-round on South Plains every day, and I don't make money from it. I don't take any money from South Plains, not a penny. Everything goes back into the production. I am the #1 volunteer. This is not an income-producing event. So certainly it's a business because money comes in, money goes out, and that's my job to balance those numbers. But no one at South Plains makes an income, including me. So it's not money driven. It's love driven. It's passion. I have a passion for doing things in my community, and especially producing and educating. I love educating. I've been a teacher my whole life, and professionally in sports and now in the leather community. And as a producer, did you see those smiles in the ballroom? Have you seen the smiles in the hallway? That is what fills my heart. Building these community spaces for us to come together, it drives me. It drives me. And when I walked on the stage last night and hugged Levi and then looked out, and I even said to everyone, this moment coming on the stage with my team is what drives me to work all year. And I said that last night on the mic.
Yes, yes.
And it really is. It's not a tagline. It truly is. And my wife, Mel, real Mel, who is in the room, Mel brought me out in leather 31 years ago. And she's on the other side of this camera, taking pictures as usual. And she sees me work every single day in my office on South Plains. And sometimes she wonders too, but it's just what I love to do. I love working for my community.
Where does that stem?
Oh gosh, deeper questions now you're asking at this hour. Where does that stem from? I've always been an organizer. I don't know exactly where it stemmed from. Maybe that's a therapy question. But
I better be careful.
But certainly it's not just in the leather community. I've been a martial artist for over 4 decades. And before I produced events in the leather community, I was producing events in the martial arts community. And before that, even as a teenager, I was the one that got the group together.
Okay.
To go somewhere. I just love bringing people together. I don't know, I'm a pack animal. I love bringing my people together, and I've always been wired that way in my life.
I can see the draw, especially when you're on stage. You really do need that if you're going to bring people together. You've got to have that energy that draws people. Mm-hmm. You've obviously done a lot of work to develop that, or is that simply...
I don't think I have. I think that actually is just the way I am. I don't think I've taken one public speaking class in my entire life in high school. I am not professionally trained. It really just comes from my heart. And, you know,
Amazing.
Mel used to tease me when we owned our big martial arts school in New York that if someone came in the door and talked to me, they would sign up for classes. And it wasn't that I was selling. I was just talking about what I love.
Yeah.
And from that place, people tend to be drawn to me. And it's just me sharing what I love. And right now, my passion is working in the leather community. So I just share that, and people want to be a part of it. And I'm grateful for that, because I can't do all this by myself.
Yeah.
So you saw last night on stage, we had, I don't know how many were there on stage. Many of them are still working, but we have a staff of over 40 people that bring South Plains. And then we have another 70 volunteers after that. So it's a big crew that, it's not just me that brings South Plains to us. It's a huge group of people.
Before we go too far into that realm, I want to tackle a couple of other issues. Tell us a little bit about where you're from and a bit about your family, your background.
I was born in the Bronx, New York, and I lived there as a young child and then moved upstate and grew up in upstate New York, not too far upstate. The upstate New Yorkers would say that's not upstate. I was only about 2 hours in the Hudson Valley. Then I went to college on Long Island, and I lived there until I moved to California when I was turning 50. Mel and I moved to California, and we've been living in Northern California since. I am Italian American by heritage. I absolutely am very connected to my Italian culture. I love to make fresh pasta, for example, and love going to Italy and being in that region. And the first time I ever went to Italy and people were screaming at each other and it was like over the price of fish, I was like, my people, I understand. I'm home. I get it. As I said, I've also been a martial artist for 4 decades in a very traditional Japanese martial art. And I am very impacted as a human and especially as a leather person by Japanese culture, because I've been so embedded in living that culture. I am not Japanese, but my teachers in the martial arts have been Japanese, and And the martial arts that I train in are very traditionally Japanese arts. They're not Americanized, in other words. And I have trained in Japan. And that culture has had equal importance in my world as my blood culture. It's like chosen family.
Yeah.
You're drawn to cultures, and that culture feels like my most favorite comfortable old pair of jeans. And I believe in past lives and future lives. And I know this is not my first time in Japanese culture. It was too familiar the instant I found it. And I know this is not my first round with that. So.
Tell us more about Japan and your thoughts on living there.
Well, I didn't live there. I visited to train.
Okay, yes.
And I think there's a difference. I think
Sure.
you really understand the culture more because you have lived there, yeah? Because
Yeah,
I remember
long time ago.
The first time we met, you started speaking Japanese. I'm like, oh, I'm a little rusty. I knew what you were saying, but I couldn't pull the word. Also, I've been through menopause. I've actually been through menopause twice.
Oh, my.
Yeah, the first time I went through menopause, the usual way. And then in 2020, I was diagnosed with breast cancer.
Oh, God.
And it was a very aggressive form of breast cancer. And the treatments they put me on actually threw me into a second menopause. So recalling words, especially around language, is very difficult for me. I've been trying to learn Italian for the better part of 5 years, and I'm dismal at it. And
Wow.
same thing.
Wow.
So I remember that day when we were on the phone, I knew what you said, and I couldn't recall the words to reply. But I also think living somewhere
It's different.
gives
yes.
you a lot more language than visiting.
Of course, yes.
I stayed in Italy for a month, and I think I learned more in that month of the language than I had learned the previous year in classes and Pimsleur and all that, right?
Yes.
So anyway, back to your question. The values that are taught in my martial arts are based on the values of Bushido, which is the way of the warrior. And I actually have a keynote on my website that I gave in Kansas City. That was my keynote there. And I talked about how those values like honor, integrity, drive me as a leather person. And they pull from my martial arts and my Japanese background in that. But the other thing that was interesting, and I've talked about this for years, when I first came into the leather community, first of all, I don't identify as a switch. I identify as a dominant and a slave. And I'm all those things all the time. And people ask me, how are you those things at the same time? They seem like that shouldn't work. But
Right.
for me, it did from the minute. And people said to me when I first came out in leather, you seem to get this, protocols and authority exchange. And I didn't understand, but I did get it. Then I realized I'd been doing this for 10 years, not in leather, not in authority exchange from my martial arts.
Yeah.
So when my teacher is in the class and he speaks, I drop to a knee in deference. But then when I speak, my students drop to a knee in deference. And that happens in the same class. So I've been in that middle position of both being the leader, the teacher and the student, or the dominant and the slave at the same time for over 40 years.
Incredible.
So it just was a natural feeling that's comfortable for me. And I realized it came from my martial arts and that deference and that we have in our traditional Japanese culture through that martial arts, and it just completely translated to leather. So that's one of the biggest ways that I've just been very comfortable in both those things. I've been a dominant from very early on, and I started off as what I thought a boy because I knew I had I'm not going to say submissive. I can't even spell the word submissive. I am not submissive. But I choose to surrender. And I knew that. I knew I needed that early on. And when I first came out in leather, I could pick boy or girl. And I knew I wasn't a girl, so I picked boy. And that was never a fit for me. Because people would pat me on the head and say, oh boy, when you grow up. And I'm like, hey, I'm pretty grown up already. That boy thing, I'm never really fit. And then I realized, and for me it's based on my level of surrender and what I offer, that actually what I offer in community to my people is a slave. And that is the depth, and this is again how I define it. I know many people define it different ways. The depth to which I offer surrender, that is, and how it feels and lives inside me, that's how I offer that. And in a sense, that was freeing, because boy never quite fit. Mm-hmm. So, and also there's no gender associated with slave, as opposed to the binaries of boy, girl, which never really fit for me either. So yeah, it's been an interesting journey in terms of how I identified, and not dominant was always clear, but the slave, boy, servant, who am I? And then throw in the gender piece has been a journey for me as well.
That's fascinating, truly, to hear how much movement there has been with that, with you.
Well, I think we have to find ourselves, right? And I think if we can depend on one thing in life, it's change. And understanding change, whether it's an individual or in relationship with your partners. Life is going to change, and I have changed over the years and how I identify, and the world has changed. I mean, when I started off in leather, for example, I had top surgery about 1.5 years ago, and I said to myself, wow, why didn't I do this 25 years ago? But 25 years ago, I identified as a butch dyke, and butch dykes didn't have top surgery 25 years ago. But now gender is such a broader spectrum of opportunity in our world that it seems like a much freer choice to do that. And I'm just thrilled that I did.
Well, that's the word there that I find so fascinating, the choice to be able to do what you want to do or be who you want to be. I find that amazing that you're able to tell your audience that. Mm-hmm. I wish that was a more known concept out there. I truly do.
Yeah, I think the world, our world, not the general world. Sometimes I have what I call a coastal view in New York, California, and skipping all the other states. I have a coastal, more liberal view of what, in living in California, of course, 2 hours from San Francisco, it creates a certain view of opportunity that many of us in our country don't have, just to be clear, as well. In the more rural locations, it makes it much more difficult.
Yes. Take us back to event producing a bit, because starting when you were very young and then coming up to what we see today, which is incredible. Tell us about that evolution a bit. How did all of that begin to piece together?
Yeah, gosh, I can go all the way back to my early 20s, and I got involved in the Lesbian Women's Music Festival group of people that were doing that, and I worked as an assistant producing women's music concerts on Long Island, and then I worked on a larger regional scale. There were bigger camping events that did that, and I would go there and run pieces of those, and then that led into my martial arts world, where I was producing large and small events, not as large as this, but fairly hundreds of people in the martial arts community. And then Glenda Ryder had taken on IMSL along with Levi, and it was their first year. And I was just coming out of a breakup of a relationship, and I was that person's servant, and I spent a lot of hours in that relationship. So when the relationship ended, I had a lot of time on my hand. I was, of course, upset, and I wanted to fill that with something. So I went to my community and I called Glenda, and I said, hey, I just ended this relationship. I have some extra time. Do you need any help with IMSL? And they were going into year 2. So Glenda, and I'd known Glenda for years. We were friends for a long time. And Glenda said, well, send me your background, because I don't quite know what your background is in a producing event. So I sent Levi and Glenda my background, and the phone rang 10 minutes later. And they said, would you join us as a producer?
Wow.
And I said, Sure. And I just jumped into the deep end of the pond, and then we all produced IMSL together for 7 years.
Wow.
And we were Gen 3. I did 7 years, and loved it. I had a blast.
What did you love about it?
Producing an event for 700 leather dykes. I mean, seriously, what's not to love? We had so much fun, and it was a big production. It was my first time, and I didn't know as much about the ballroom then. I was the operations person. I was the one with the spreadsheets. That's what I do best, and I did this in the ballroom. Different people did the ballroom. Ms. Rhonda, for most of that period, produced the ballroom shows. And I did things like security and registration, stuff like that. But I was wide-eyed and just, yeah. It was such a big production and bigger than anything I'd ever done. And I learned a lot of skills about how to produce an event of this nature back then.
Like what? What did you learn?
I learned you've probably heard the term throw money at it.
Yes.
I wouldn't survive producing events if I used that term, but I throw organization at it. Not in a rigid way. I organize it and structure it very strong before we hit on site. And what that allows me to do is once I hit on site, I can be flexible to fix the things that are going to break. Because they always break. So you don't want to be rigid about your structure, but you want your structure in place, because if you hit on site and you're still figuring out structure, you don't have the time or the energy to fix the problems. And there are always problems. No matter how good of a producer you are, things happen. And I'm going to tell a funny story that is really going to embarrass me.
Okay.
So last night we're at Debauchery, and within the last year we changed the South Plains logo, and we refreshed the logo. The logo had existed for 25 years.
Wow.
So we did a refresh, and this is the new. So not with that star. The star means at the host hotel that I pay the bill. Everyone's like, why are you wearing that star? It means you don't want the star. It means I have to pay the bill. But this is the new logo minus the star. And I made a new podium banner. I spelled Leatherfest wrong on the podium banner. And someone took a picture and showed us after the show at about 11 last night. And I just laughed. This is the human factor of producing events. So as organized as I am, I misspelled the name of the event on the podium banner. And it was just hilariously funny, because what can you do?
Yeah.
The event's done. Nothing I can do. But what I did do, which is one of the reasons I was late for this interview this morning, was I ordered a rush banner so it can be fixed by tonight. And that's what I mean by you come in with all this structure, but you can't be rigid. You have to be very nimble and flexible on site, but have that structure in place. And that's the biggest lesson I learned.
Incredible.
Yeah.
Incredible. But building on that a little bit, of course, over many years, contests have evolved quite a lot, and what people expect and what can be done or whatever. Tell us a little bit about that. What kinds of things have you seen change over the years?
Yeah, so along with South Plains, I became the producer and owner of the International Master Slave Contest System, and that comes with 5 regional feeders throughout the country, and we also welcome international contestants through a petition process. And then shortly after that, the owners and producers of the International Person of Leather Contest System approached me and asked me to give that contest system a home at South Plains Leatherfest. So those are the 2 systems that I produce right now here. What I have seen is contest representation has become more political and less a pageant.
Okay.
If you look, even IMSL and IMSBABA, back in the day when I produced it, I think, and again, this is just my opinion, people could disagree or I could be completely off, but from my bleacher seats and also being in the thick of it as well, I think we expect more of our title holders to stand up and represent us with a voice to the issues that concern us, maybe more so back in the day when it was a bar title and we were looking at who was the prettiest, right? And more of a pageantry and a visual representation. I think we want voice and we want people to speak, help us be a voice and speak with us, not for us, but with us. And that could also be the type of titles that I'm running right now as well. I'm not sure, but that's my impression, that we're holding our title holders to a very high standard, and we want their representation to be very well-rounded, to represent the title, to represent the viewpoints of the community on so many different aspects and angles, and not just look good in their leather.
Yeah. And do you think that that's becoming successful?
I don't know. It's a tough time, right? I think it's a very hard moment in leather history to be a producer, to be a title holder, and to be a human. So I don't know. I think time will tell. I think that it's something we look for, and again, I don't think you can paint title holders or title systems with one brush stroke.
Right.
Every title holder is different. They bring different skill sets. They bring different things that are important to them, and some are better at it than others. Some bring integrity, some don't. You know, not every person that wins a title brings ethics and integrity, and we know this. This is the reality of community. Yeah. So I don't know. I don't know that we could say, is it successful or not? I think it's on an individual basis. Has this title holder been successful or not? I think is more the question.
Fascinating. Now, if there are great qualities that people can bring forward in some of this, what would you tell title holders to avoid bringing into that situation?
The biggest thing that I ask my people, everyone involved in South Plains, and I ask title holders, is have real conversations with people. I am weary of the social media burn downs. I don't think they help. I think they harm. I have been harmed as a producer managing social media attacks, which I don't respond to. South Plains does not respond to. We work very closely in conjunction with our partner, the National Coalition for Sexual Freedom, who has helped us make policy and procedures that we follow. And one of them is South Plains does not participate in social media announcements about conflicts. We do our work in-house.
Wow.
We resolve conflicts. We have very clear procedures that we have developed with legal advisors and with NCSF's advice. And I'm tired of the social media inaccurate accusations that people offer a single perspective, and then like social media happens, it goes like wildfire. Yeah. And the people that are doing that do not have the full context of the situation. I can promise you that. Yeah. So sometimes as a producer, I have to make hard decisions. And when I make hard decisions, there's a segment of people that don't like the resulting decision. When that happens, people go to social media and I get attacked personally. And that is harmful. Yes. I didn't sign up for that. Honestly, I didn't sign up for that work. And here I am doing it because of the way social media works today. So what I ask is for people to sit and have real conversations. And if you need a mediator to do it, get one. But do the work of conflict resolution,
Yeah.
rather than, like, for example, I've had breakups. In my 31 years in leather, I've had breakups. And I remember when Ms. Rhonda and we served as International Master and Slave 2016 and Northwest Master and Slave 2015. And we transitioned our relationship out of an MS relationship. You have never read a negative word on social media from either of us. We
Wow.
just don't do it.
Wow. That's beautiful.
We
actually.
do our work in-house, and and believe me, we struggled with that transition, and we worked on it together, and we are still family. We are leather family. We care about each other. We talk almost every day, and we did that work, but you didn't read about it.
Yeah.
And that's the piece that I really wish my community would stop. That is harmful to people, and it has harmed me.
Yeah.
So I love all the work, but that's the piece that burns me out and exhausts me and hurts. And people lose track of the humanity in it.
Yes.
And it's so easy to hit that keyboard and burn people down and burn the world down. And I'm tired of it. I'm really tired of it. So I ask title holders, attendees, producers, come and have conversation. Let's figure it out. I call it, when I teach a class on conflict resolution, and one of the concepts I talk about is coffee table conflict resolution, where we take the problem together, we put it on the coffee table, and we look at it together as a team. Ms. Rhonda and I have been doing this for years. Levi and Mel and I have been doing this for years. And I'm not saying I'm perfect at it, believe me. I can be defensive, just like any other human. But we look at it together rather than looking at it as that we're the adversaries.
Yes.
And I wish our community could do more around that for social conflict, event conflict. And at South Plains, we lean into our policies that we developed with NCSF, and we follow them.
Excuse me.
And we hope to protect all of our people through our policies that we worked the better part of a year after South Plains last year developing those policies.
Wow. That's really amazing. I've not heard of that going on in other events, at least not that I know from outside the picture, you know.
Mm-hmm.
That's fascinating.
It's the hardest thing I think we do as producers is resolving conflict. An example of that is one attendee says this person was abusive to me, and then they shouldn't get to attend, or they shouldn't get to teach, or they shouldn't get to produce. And then how am I supposed to figure that out?
Yeah.
I'm not a judge and jury. So that's why we approached the experts, and the experts are NCSF. And they taught us what we needed to do and how we needed to improve. And that's where those policies came from. But it's not easy.
Is that something that you can depict slightly for us, or give some idea of how that was created for you?
Yeah, we got together with NCSF, with mediation experts, with people from our community who are mediators and therapists. And we created a policy where we go to an outside investigative party who are made up of mediator therapist types. We take the incident information without blame, because it's an incident. We don't assume guilt until we investigate. That's important. And then we go to that investigative team, and they come back to us with a recommendation. And that is a very broad scope of what the new policy is. But I think we've done really good work on this policy, and it's on our website, southplainsleatherfest.com, and it's under consent policy. And that drives how we manage this. And it's still hard. It is still difficult. Yeah. Another interesting thing the community tends to do is they tend to, and they do this every year, hit me with these incidents days before South Plains. So as I'm trying to bring a party alive for 800 people, now my priority has to change to address this. It happened in 2024. It happened again this year.
Wow.
Where I was literally dealing with an incident the day before I got on the plane to come here. Mm-hmm. So that's hard timing, very difficult timing, and makes it tricky to do, even trickier, I should say, to do this work. But this is the world we're in today, So as a producer, I can't say, well, we didn't do it this way 20 years ago, because it's not 20 years ago.
Right.
It's today. And
Right.
if my community expects me to manage these incidents quick, on my feet, moving, and fairly and thoroughly, then that is the expectation I have to work with. And we do our best. We do our absolute best.
My gosh, I can't even imagine.
It's a lot. That's the hardest thing. Dealing with those incidents is really tough.
Now, you have this whole group of contestants, and you've been through, I don't even know how many hundreds probably in your career. What makes successful contestants, in your opinion?
Authenticity. I say two things to contestants when I offer them advice. Number one, don't try to be someone you're not as a contestant. No one's going to buy it. You have to bring your authentic self. You can't create something for the contest, no matter what contest you're in. Bring who you are and bring your best self. And the second thing I tell them is learn about the contest system that you're entering and who your producer is. Because if you win, this is a long-term relationship. At South Plains, we say #lifetime because we expect our contestants to make a commitment to the system and supporting the system. So be yourself, know who you are, and be yourself, offer that, but also know who you're going to be representing in terms of the system, the event, and your producer. And make sure it's a match. It's like whenever you get into a long-term relationship, you look at core values. Do my core values match with this person? You know, if I'm just showing up for a 2-hour flogging scene, maybe I don't need to look that deep, right? I just need to be safe. However, if it's a long-term relationship or an authority exchange relationship, you need to dig a little bit deeper. That's what I tell contestants. Make sure your core values match with your producer. Because if they don't, you're going to have issues, just like you would being in a relationship with someone where your core values don't match.
Wow, that's very profound, I feel. Incredible. Now, if you were going to offer any advice to people coming into the community, whether they're a contestant or just an attendee or whatever, what advice can you offer people to have the most probably successful experiences coming into this?
Coming to an event in particular,
or coming into
entering
the community, however you really want to take that. Sort of a broad question.
Yeah, that is a broad question. I guess just ask questions. Come in with an open mind, because not everybody looks like you. Not everyone comes from the same culture. Not everyone has this, they don't see the world the same way. They don't see leather or BDSM the same way. I think the term leather is a very broad spectrum term, like an umbrella. And there's a lot of different flavors of leather under that umbrella. So eyes open, ask questions, and buckle up and enjoy the ride. You know? And make sure you're tall enough to ride this ride, right? Do your own work. So, for example, if you're not in an emotionally healthy place, maybe jumping into an authority exchange relationship isn't the time for you, right? So do your own work, your own agency, and then make sure you're tall enough to ride the ride you're trying to ride.
Wow, that's a big one.
Yeah, it is. Well, you asked a broad question. I'm giving you a broad answer back.
I got what I deserved from that one,
didn't
I?
I've done this pop question game. This is not new.
Now, if you could go back and change anything in any of this, would you? And if you did, what would you change?
No, I don't think there's anything to change. I think we change as a leather community all on our own. And I've seen the leather community change so much in the years that I've been around. And I'm not going to say whether it's been good or bad, so don't ask. Because I don't think there is a good or bad. I don't think it has to be one or the other, right? It doesn't have to be either or. I think there are good things and bad things and lots of things in between. I try to not think in a either or way. I think there's a range for everything in life. And I think it changes great on its own. There's nothing that I can think to change. I would add more kindness and generosity, and that is definitely in low supply these days when we all feel under attack and fearful. That is the one thing I would ask for. That's not necessarily a change, but it's what I would ask for.
How do you feel about mentoring in the community? It's a very big topic these days.
Yeah, I think mentors are necessary in our community. If you go back to the statement so many decades ago by Jill Carter, each one teaches one. And I think that's been the way the leather community has been, even in the early days, right? Before the leather community was community, and it was backdoor entry because you knew someone.
Yes.
It was the same way in terms of taking someone and molding them and teaching them the ways of the leather community. But what are the ways of the leather community? Again, we are very diverse. And even in authority exchange, people say to me, is there one way to do this? And my answer is yes, there is one way to do this. If you are someone that surrenders, it's the way your dominant or your master says to do it. That's the only time there's a one way.
Yeah.
So mentorship, I think, is important from both the giving and the receiving. And it's like in the martial arts. There are those that came before that we learn from, but it doesn't mean they're perfect. Doesn't mean they know everything. Doesn't mean we have to do it exactly that way. But I think that we can support each other in our entry into leather with newer people and help them understand what all the options are, really. And I think there's a predator side of mentorship, because there are predators in every community, and I think some people take mentorship as a way to take people that don't know a lot yet and possibly harm them. And I think we need to be aware of that in this community, like every other community. So
Wow.
there is that piece that, you know, the leather community is not perfect, and we have people in our community that could do better as well, just like everywhere else in the world.
Wow. That's heavy.
It is.
Yeah. Now, someone somewhere will see this video.
Okay.
It'll be on YouTube someplace, and they're going to sit and they're going to look at you, and they're going to hear what you have to say. Now, what can you offer? What advice or guidance or whatever can you offer for people to really pull out their potential as members of this community and however they identify?
The biggest piece of advice I think I would offer is to get involved. Go to an event as a volunteer. I love to have a job. I would not do well at an event and not have a job. That's the way I'm wired. So, of course, this is my perspective, my answer to the question. But get involved. Take what you love to do and go to an event, go to a producer, and offer that and be a part of it. And then you're not just watching from the outside, you're an active participant on the inside.
Yeah.
And that is my biggest piece of advice to people. Just get involved and do what you love to do and offer that, and be an active part of the community, not just coming in and being an observer or going to a play party.
Yeah.
Help, put the chairs out, put the chairs away, whatever it is that you enjoy doing.
Wild.
Yeah.
That's really big. I think a lot of people could benefit from hearing that. Absolutely. Now, who or what has most influenced you in this community and in your journey?
Well, I talked about earlier about how my martial arts, Japanese culture has certainly shaped me and influenced me. But there is one person that has influenced me more than any other in the leather community. And it might sound strange, but it is my boy, Levi. Levi and I have been together for 18 years. And he brings such joy to my world. He tempers me. He works with me every day, hand in hand. He stands next to me. He stands in front of me. He has really shaped me as much as anything else in my world as a leather person. And we have gone through this journey together. And as he's grown, I actually don't even call him my boy, although in my heart I will call him my boy. But now he is my major domo. And if there's other people in service, he manages that. He is out there right now, this morning, dealing with South Plains issues while we're in here talking. And I just love him, and he has impacted me so much and taught me so much. He's a Buddhist and I'm a New Yorker. All right. So there's a
combination.
There's a temperament there, and now I'm in California, so I have all this woo myself. I certainly, some people might think that where is that New Yorker, and like, who's that, and what'd you do with Tomo from the Bronx? But I still have that New York Bronx edge, believe me. But Levi is just he's an incredible leather person, and I love him so dearly, and he's really just been such a significant part of my leather journey, and I hope that we have impacted each other in a positive way. I guess we're doing something right after 18 years.
Oh, absolutely beautiful and so heartfelt.
Yeah.
Truly. Now, how do you want to be remembered by the community?
I have two things that live on my desk that are very special to me. One of them is a back patch done in the old style way with the metal studs.
Oh, yes.
And it says, "Get it done, Tomo." And it was made by Skeeter of Mr. S Leather in San Francisco. And it was a gift to me when I was producing International Ms. Leather.
Okay.
And the second, around the same time, I was given a little tiny pin. And on the pin is a horse, and it says the words "workhorse." And it was given to me by my New York friend of many decades, Lolita Wolf.
Oh, yeah.
And Lolita gave me that pin when I was producing Imzel. And that's what comes to mind. I would like my leather community to remember how much I loved giving to them and working for them and doing the things that I do. Whether it's teaching or emceeing or, we needed an auctioneer, so I learned to be an auctioneer. I do what's needed, right? And I love people to remember me for all the work that I did. Like yesterday, we had to set up vending, right? We had some stuff happen, and I jumped in, and Levi and I were moving the tables.
Wow.
So I am not a producer that sits on a pedestal or sits back and lets others work. I'm the first one there and the last to leave. That's what I would like people to remember, that I did the work.
Yeah.
And I do the work of listening, and I'm human and I make mistakes. And that's the other side of the work. I think as producers, we have to listen, and we can't entrench, and we have to change.
Yeah.
And I do that work as well, and I try to create space and uplift voices for marginalized people. That is so important to me in our community, and I'd like to be seen for that work as well.
Beautiful.
So doing the work, that's what I would love people to remember.
What's the biggest misconception about you?
Oh, that's an easy one.
Oh, no.
Yeah, I think people see me as big, mean, powerful Tomo. And in reality, I'm really more of a daddy. I am very, very, I have a huge heart. I'm a Leo, I'm lion-hearted, and I have a huge heart. I have a sensitive heart that I don't think a lot of people see, because they see me as this big get it done and running this and with a mic on stage, and until you get to know me, you don't know the soft and sensitive heart that I actually have. And I think that is without a doubt the biggest misconception. And sadly, people forget my humanity when they're mean to me. And my wife will tell you it has an impact. You can hear my voice breaking. And that's the biggest misconception, that people forget that producers are human and we have hearts too.
Yes.
So that, I think, is the biggest misperception. And it's true. When you own a big event and you're a leader in community, and it comes with power. It's true. That is a fact. And I work really hard to use that power for our community's benefit. And I know there are a few people that would say that's not true, but they need to understand the context.
Sure.
And really understand the fullness of whatever the issue is they disagree with. Because I truly take whatever power the community has gifted and extended to me, which I think I've earned over the years, to do the good work in the community.
Yeah.
And I am human and I am fallible. And I try my best to right things when I do something wrong, like misspelling Leatherfest on Podium Banner last night, which is a little embarrassing.
Maybe we should capture a picture of that and put it in
Oh
here.
gosh, we have it because someone sent us a picture last night. I'm like, why are you showing me a picture of the podium banner? And I think it was Mel that said, look closely. I'm like, oh my gosh.
That's funny. That's
Yeah.
funny. Well, Tomo,
I can't believe I just told the world that. But, it'll be replaced by tonight.
but seriously, if you can get me a photo of that, we'll edit it into here just
Mel
to show
will
people.
get you the picture of that.
Don't think I'm going to let you forget, Mel.
It's still hanging.
The human nature. Yeah, it's still in the ballroom hanging.
Oh,
You
okay.
could actually go take a picture.
Maybe I will.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah.
But Tomo, I have to thank you. What a
Thank you,
privilege to be able to do this interview with you.
Oh, it's my privilege. I am so excited that you asked me to do this now twice.
Well, but this is so much better than the debacle we had the last time.
Well, yeah, we
so-
were in a huge room in Kansas City, and the sound was off, and there was a lot of background noise. So this is great. We're in a little tiny classroom at South Plains Leatherfest, and I locked the door, and luckily no one has come to find me in the last however long this
I
has
don't know,
been.
45 minutes, I guess.
But thank you so much.
Thank
It's my
you.
privilege, and I really appreciate your work. So I'm just going to flip this for a second
Oh.
to recognize you and your work in the community in capturing history. And thank you so much for that labor that you do.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All righty. All right. Thank you, everybody,
Thanks,
from
everyone.
South Plains Leather.
Thank you.
Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, check out the Fireside Chat channel for more chapters in the history of leather. And don't forget to hit like and subscribe.